Hello, adventurers. It is I, Celeste Venture, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, it is a Friday, but instead of a board game, we will be doing something different, and this is Patreon's choice. So, this is a topic that was highly requested by the Patreon community, and today we are going to get artsy. So, I highly recommend for you to grab some graph paper, hex paper, or even just scratch paper, plain paper. Get your pens and a pencil and eraser, and we are going to talk about regional and town maps. So this is super easy. You can, if you can just doodle or just draw simple lines, then you can totally do this. I find drawing maps a very relaxing kind of outlet, I guess. And before we dive into it, I do want to say that I personally do not think about scale that much. I just like to think of maps as a representation of kind of where things are located and how the adventure will progress. So we are going to get into regional maps first before we go into town maps. So when we look at regional maps here, there are different ways that you can picture this. There is a style where you can do actually a hex crawl kind of adventure, and this is where I like to use the sandbox generator. And you start at a location, could be anywhere. Usually I like to start in the middle, and then you can decide whether or not you want to go this way, this way, and here are different symbols that you can use for the biomes, so the different like terrain, I guess, as you travel to these different hexes. So one way that you can do it is like this. So where you start at the first hex of the map, and then you can roll. So let's see here, this is a d10. So we got a 1. So meaning, let's say I choose this hex, and that means that in this hex, it will be grasslands. And for grasslands, it could be anything really, but it can just be something like this to represent some grass. And then for the next hex, let's say we want to go up, we're going to head north, and we got a 9. So that would be a marsh. And let's say for marshes, I like to think of like swamps or something. So there we go. And then let's see, let's go this way. And let's see what's over here. 7. Okay, so now it's a forest. And then now we can draw little forests and trees, etc. So that is how you do kind of a hex crawl adventure and map. And then just a side note, usually what I like to do is where I start, I roll for the encounter, and then I figure out what's going on in that encounter. So for example, this part, so let's say it's grasslands, right? So if we start here in grasslands, then we can roll to see what we encounter. So let's do a d12 or something. 12. Okay, so we got werewolves. So werewolves are going to be in this area. That's just an example of how you can use this hex crawl kind of mechanic into your own hex crawl adventure. So that's an example of doing regional maps. The other way that I like to do it, actually, I have a little guide here, but I love to divide an area into sections. So when we think about a map, so I'll use my Valadier example here, and this is a map that I'm drawing for a board game that I'm making, actually. And I thought it'd be really cool to just have this region kind of mapped out like this, and then I'll have everything here in the middle, and then I'll have the seas and like little islands and stuff on the other side. So you can draw it like this. You can have the entire page as a region if you want, or you can even do like a little island, or for example. And so there are different ways for you to kind of think about the shape of the region and how you want to divide it into sections. And so you can see here, I divided it into 4 different sections here. And then I outline the shape of how I want it to like look like. And then I place major terrain. So you can see here, this is like a forest. This is a mountain range, more mountain ranges. Here's a river, a lake. And you can see I even just did like little dots here as representation of like cities or towns. And then we have plains. So yeah, you can keep it really simple. It doesn't need to be super detailed. That's truly like up to you. And then once you have your terrain and then you add your settlements, then you can think about connecting the roads and like paths. So I don't have roads and paths like lined here at all, but you can think of different icons like this, for example. So I thought like a dotted line would be a road, and then this would be like a river. And then just thinking about using bold and thin lines. So I think for like really thin lines, that would be good for like little details. And then for bold lines, that could be like rivers or even the outline of the region. So here's like an example. And so I guess we can get started with how we want to draw a regional map here. So I guess I'll use this as like a scratch paper, and then we can go ahead and use this page. So for this page over here, we can go ahead. So there are different ways that you can figure out the shape of your region. I've actually seen a couple of different ways. I've seen people use rice, and they just pour rice on their page and then they try to like outline it. But for me personally, I kind of just like doing it from just my own imagination. I don't really have too much of a structure. So for me, I like to think of, I don't know, maybe we can come up with a theme. Like maybe if we want to do like a pirate theme or something, we can think of a region along the coast. So I like this example that I used here. I was thinking of maybe like a pirate themed kind of adventure. So it doesn't have to be big. I mean, you can take up the whole page if you want, but I guess that is what we can do. So think about the edge of just any map, really. And then you can try to kind of emulate that as well into your own map. So you can see here, this is kind of like the edge of a region. And then I was thinking the water could be like on this side, and then this could be our little map of like the region. And then we can even add maybe like islands or something. So for islands, I like to think about how they kind of mirror a little bit the shape of the region. So that's kind of what I did like here. I kind of shaped it a little bit. And then, I don't know, I guess I was just thinking as like over time when like coastlines like change and stuff. So we can have something like that. And then here's like a little cove. Maybe here's like another little cove. And then maybe like an island far out. Could be over here. So yeah, I don't really have too much of a process of thinking of the different shapes here. And then I like to do like little lines like this to kind of represent the coastline. So just like that. Again, doesn't have to be perfect. This is also just a fun doodling exercise as well. So there we go. yeah, so you can see I have like bold lines here to kind of represent the edge of the region that we are going to be drawing. Okay, and then now we can use our little icons here. So we have our icons here to kind of represent the different features of what you can find on a map. So I love to think of maybe like big mountain ranges, maybe coming from along this side. That's how I kind of like to think of it. Or we can even do maybe like a forest, maybe like a huge forest here. And then the mountain ranges coming on this side. And then most of the major settlements could be here because we're thinking like pirates, right? So maybe there's like little port and like coastal towns here. So now with a pencil, this is usually what I like to do when I still have ideas that are still kind of like forming in my head and nothing's really solidified, you know. I like to divide this into sections here. So we have 4 sections that I'm thinking of. Okay, so now we have to think about the purpose of the map. So I think for this kind of adventure, I would want the majority of the action kind of happening along the coast. So I'd imagine that this area here would be cities, towns. So I'll just make a note for myself here, towns and cities. And then here could be probably some like smaller, I don't know, maybe like villages or something. So like little villages. So not too much action kind of happening here. And then I'm thinking like a big mountain range on this side. Mountain range, and then just tons of forest over here. And then maybe in this mountain range there can be like a big mountain, like something like that, you know, like you know how there's like Mount Doom or something. And then maybe here we can have one big mountain, and then we can have, I don't know, I feel like here it would be cool to have like points of interest. And so I usually like to use a 1d6 for thinking about how many of XYZ would we find in this region. So maybe for this side, so we have a big forest, and let's say we're thinking of maybe some like dungeons or something in this forest. So we can get a 1d6. So look at that. So we have 1. So we have like 1 dungeon that we can put here. That'd be a point of interest. So 1 dungeon in this area. And let's see, how many like towns and cities on this side? Okay, we got 6. So we can say like 6 towns or something. And then how many villages on that side? 3. Okay. Then we have here 3 villages. I know this is really faint, so it might be a little bit hard to see, but we have 3 villages here. We have 6 towns in here. Here we have a forest and 1 dungeon that will be the main point of interest. Like maybe the adventure can revolve around that dungeon, or we also haven't explored these areas yet. Like that'd be really cool. And then here a mountain range, and then there's going to be 1 big mountain over here, which could possibly be another dungeon to explore. And now for our 2 little islands here on this side. So I'm thinking, it would be cool to have, I'm assuming there would be like another city or maybe a village here. I'm thinking maybe like a couple of villages actually. 2. Okay. So we have over here 2 villages. And then I kind of want this to be another point of interest. So maybe there can be like a secret, I don't know, maybe like dungeon or something to explore on that side. So how many? Oh, there's 6 of them. Okay, so there's like maybe like 6 dungeons of some sort on this island. Okay, this will be interesting. Maybe the 6 dungeons could be like a vast maze or something, and they're all like connected. Like that would be really cool to explore. Okay, so we have everything pretty much mapped out for the most part. So we have a basic idea of how we want to use this map. And then now we can go ahead and start drawing what we want in each section of this region. So we have here in my little icons, I was thinking there are different ways that you can do this, but you can have like a little dot here, kind of that's what I did for Valadier, for a town, maybe a square for a point of interest, a capital city of some sort could be with like a star. And then we also have this where we can like draw like little just simple buildings to represent different things here. So we can do that. Okay, so for a forest, I do like what I did here, so we can do something like that. And then for the dungeon, maybe we can... Maybe the dungeon could be somewhere here. I feel like that would be cool. Yeah, so we can have the dungeon around here. And also, if you want to label, you can totally like label it on the region itself, like of the map. Like that's kind of what I did for Valadier here. Yeah, so I have like a little, I guess, rectangle for to place like the names of the towns and stuff, but I sometimes don't like doing that because I also like to reuse maps, so then I can use it for my different adventures and such. So I personally don't like putting names on maps if I want to reuse them, but of course it is up to you. But I was thinking we can do a dungeon maybe here. So we can draw, there we go. And then here's like the little door to represent the dungeon. And then now we can go ahead and draw a forest. So we can draw trees like this. Also, they don't have to be like super grouped like together, because I don't know, sometimes for me, I get kind of impatient when I'm trying to draw. And so we can even have it like spread out. It doesn't need to be, of course, pretty and perfect. Again, this is just a representational kind of map to just get the ideas like flowing for your adventure, and you just want a nice little visual here. And then, I don't know, let's see, what else do we want to do? Maybe hills over here, and then it'll transition into a mountain range. So we can do something like that. Then we can have one big mountain. Let's just have the big mountain maybe like here. Yeah, there we go. So we have our big mountain there. Okay, we have our small little mountains. Sweet. Okay. So we have this, yep, and then we have our big mountain here. I kind of like that like sketchy kind of feel, so I kind of like the messy lines and stuff, but that's just me. There we go. Cool. So yeah, so we have our mountain here. Okay, awesome. Yep, so this is our big mountain. And then we can, I guess we can have the forest kind of hitting it against like this region here. And now we will, let's put some like hills. Yeah, so we'll do some hills here. So hills are just little bumps like that. That's how I usually like to do hills. Yeah, so maybe it's like the forest is transitioning into the hills here. And then we can also do maybe like plains. So I have an icon here to just do like little like grassy patches to just represent the plains. Okay, so there we go. So we have yeah, so we have like our big mountain, the mountain range, some hills, and then plains, and then the forest or dungeon here. And then maybe for the major city, we can have it here. I like to think of it maybe on the edge, not on it, but like close to it at least. There we go. Yeah, so we can have a city over there, and then we can do towns. Yeah, so maybe we can have one town here. There, yeah, so that could represent one. Here's another one. Okay, so we have 3. Let's do it over here. This would be cool. Yeah, so it's totally up to you how you want to do this. So we have 4, and then we'll do 5 here. Another town. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then one more. We can do maybe actually let's do it along here. Why not? There we go. Okay, cool. So now we have that, and then maybe in between the towns we have we can do maybe plains here. Yeah, so we can have like plains, and then we can, oh, I just had an idea. Maybe like the forest can kind of surround maybe like this town. That would be kind of interesting to see what that would kind of, how that would add to the adventure. That'd be really cool. Okay, cool. And then we can have, let's do hills. And then here we'll have little villages. So I like to think of villages maybe along the coast here. 1, 2, and then let's do 1 here. 3. And then we can do more plains. There we go. And so yeah, so we have kind of the major area all mapped out here. Kind of want to add a mountain here. There we go. And then of course, like, it's up to you if you want to add like more, I guess, dimension to it. But maybe if I do want to like fill it out more, I can add more trees for the forest or something. Yeah, so like something like that. But yeah, it's truly up to you. And this is a nice like doodling exercise, so you can also just take your sweet time on this. Of course, if you have the time, like sometimes if you do just want to make a quick like map, like you can easily just space out the icons and you don't have to do too much. But okay, yeah, so we have our forest. There we go. We have all the major cities and towns, the villages on that side, and then we have a really big mountain to explore as well if we want to. Okay, there we go. And then let's do 2 villages here. So maybe they can be like maybe a little spot for people to stop by if they're about to hit the seas. And then I do like the idea of a forest on the village, or on the island. There we go. Yeah. Okay, sweet. So I think this is looking good. And now, oh, we do need to map this out. So maybe for the dungeons, I think I'm just gonna do one big one. Just one big icon to represent the dungeon. And then this will just be a mega dungeon or something. And then we can have kind of like the idea of like a, maybe like mountains on the side. Yeah, so instead of just drawing 6 dungeons, I'll just consider this like one island that's just filled with just a maze of a dungeon. Okay, so yeah, so this is what it's looking like. And I totally forgot to add a lake, because I'm sure there'll be lakes somewhere in here. I don't know, maybe we can do, oh, it's all like full now, but anyways, I totally should have added a lake of some sort, but whatever. And then now we can add roads. So for roads, I like to do dotted lines. So maybe for here, they can go like this. Maybe each one can kind of go towards like the towns through the villages. There we go. And then, I don't know, maybe we can also do something like this. Maybe from this town, we can have a road that goes to this village. Or we can have this road go through there, so then it cuts off and branches. Maybe this one too can cut off and branch. There we go. This one will have a little one there. And then if you want, we can even map out maybe some like, what do you call this? Maybe like a little path for villages as they like, or for villages, for ships as they go across the coast here. Like maybe we can go from this town and we can go across the water and it can reach this side if we want, and then it can also stop by this big town or maybe this city. Yeah, so something like that. There we go. And so as you can see, it is getting a little busy, and then this is kind of where I like to just bold the lines a little more of the region. So just making sure that when if I do want to color it, obviously it's up to you guys if you want to color or not. It'll just be easier and I can kind of see better of like what I'm actually coloring. It's looking a little bolder, which is nice. I just don't have my other thicker pen handy right now, but yeah, this is looking good. So maybe there isn't a path for ships to go through to this island. I'm assuming this one could be like abandoned or something. That'd be kind of cool. Okay, yeah, so I guess we have finished, and then we can go ahead and just erase all the pencil marks and whatever. So we have a really cool map of the region here, and then of course you can name it whatever you want. I sometimes like to just use like, what's that site called, like Fantasy Name Generator, or I like to use the tables found here, which is really cool. Like there's like a nice table of different names that you can use. Where is it? Business. There's a table in here. Oh yeah, like the name or something. Yeah, so there's like tables in here for names if you don't really have something. Yeah. So okay. Yep, so we have our region, and of course you can color it if you want. I just like to do I don't know. I personally like black and white more, but of course, that is up to you. Oh, you know what? Maybe I can fit a lake in here. So I can do that. Maybe I can. Let's try that. So I'll do like a little lake here. And then I'll go like this. And I know I did a mistake over here, but it doesn't matter. And then maybe for a river, it can lead to here. Oh, or it could go through the mountains, something like that. And maybe it branches out. So yeah, that is an example. So again, it's not technical, but of course that's not the point of the video. This is just really a way for you guys to doodle if you've never made a regional map before. And it's definitely ready for some cool adventure, who knows? But this was a fun activity to do. All right, so that is how you make a regional map. And now for town maps. I like to simplify town maps. I'll bring out this example and we can use this paper as a scratch to practice that. But if you are familiar with my adventure with Balaam through Black Marsh in the city of Geneve, this is how I made the town map, and I used the sandbox generator to actually get the shape of this town or city map. And sorry, I always mix up the words city and town. I feel like they're kind of the same in my head, but yeah, just letting you know if you get confused there. So we can try to draw a town. So for a town, I like to think of it kind of the same way as this kind of regional map, but we think about it in sections. But let's say if we want to make a town, we can use this. Where is it? So we can use this thing. So here is, I know it says villages, but we can just use this to help out with the layout. So you can see this is a heap, this is a round, and this is a row. So for us, let's see, we can roll a d6 to see. Okay, so we got a 3. So the 3, it would be a row here. So it'll look like this. So now we can go ahead and draw. So it'll be a row. And let's see. If we have one major road here, so this is the major road. Let's see, how many sections are here and here? So let's roll 1d6. Okay, so we have 3 different sections, okay, or 6, and then we have 2 sections here. Okay, so this is kind of how I'm picturing it. So if we have another road here, that's just split right down the middle. So we have 2 little sections here, and this is the main road, and then we have 6 sections over here. So I'm thinking we can do one road here, and then another road there. And then we have 1, 2, 3, and then we can do 4, and then 5, 6 maybe. We can go like that. And now, when we divide it into sections, now I like to think about the major locations of our adventure. Because for a map, it's not going to be super detailed, and you don't want it to be detailed like too much, or else then you'll get kind of confused. At least for me, I sometimes get confused if a map is like too big for me to like track, especially if it's just me playing solo. So now I like to think of different sections that have very unique locations. So generally speaking, there's always going to be maybe like a blacksmith, a market, or a tavern. And so you can see here for points of interest, we have the different kind of, you know, the typical locations that you'll find. And then we'll also have special locations over here. So I kind of like to think of these sections as, you know, spots that your adventurers will be exploring. And so I like to think of the entrance of this major city will be over here. And then we'll have the exit over here, possibly. Yeah, something like that, okay? And now for, let's see, how many buildings are going to be in this area here? So we have 5, okay. And now this is where we can, you know, get creative with our boxes here. So there's going to be 5. Maybe there's a building here. Here's another one. And then we have another one here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have 5. Okay, so these are our 5 buildings in this area. How many buildings are over here? There's going to be 4. So we have 1, 2, 3, and maybe there's something in the back here. Yeah, like maybe the road ends with that building. And then how many buildings are over here? We got 2. Yeah, that was 2. So we got 2 big ones. So we have 1, and then we have 2. Okay. Let's see on this side. We have 6. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have 6. Awesome. And now for these 2. So we got 3 on that side and then 4. So we have 3. So 1, 2, and 3. And then we have 4 over here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. And then let's see, maybe for the edges of kind of this side, maybe it could just be a building. I don't know. I didn't really think about that, but I like that idea. Okay. And then now for this area. Okay, so this one's going to be one big building. So I'm kind of thinking of it like, I don't know, something like this. And then we have 2 on this side. Okay, so then we have 2 big buildings over here. Okay. All right, so we have our map. So how I'm kind of picturing this, just from the way that, just looking at the layout. Let's put actually a building here at the end. Okay, so I'm kind of seeing this as a very important spot. Maybe like all the, I guess, behind the scenes of the city, like running. So I don't know, maybe like a government building, something like that. I like to think maybe like a town hall or something. So yeah, we have like ideas in here, or we can go into cities. Maybe it could be, oh, maybe it's like maybe a factory even, or it could be military. It could be a military. I like official. So let's see. Under official, what would this be? So we'll roll a d20. So we got 2 archives. Okay, so I'm thinking archives could be this big building. So I don't know. How do I want to write this? Maybe we can just do an arrow. So this would be archives. And then let's see what this little building is. I'm thinking it could be maybe some sort of a business. Yeah, so we can roll D100 here. So we got 84. Okay, so 84 will be, oh, a slaughterhouse. Okay. All right, and then these two. So let's see, maybe it's another business. We got 4 animal trainer. Okay, so we can have here. Okay, and then this one, I'm thinking maybe military. Maybe military next to the archives or something, I don't know. Canteen. Okay, so yeah, so we have like our big buildings over here on this side, and then now we can focus on like these little buildings over here. So we don't have to do like every single building, but for sure there's definitely going to be like housing. It would be, I don't know, I'm trying to think, like markets or something. So I'm actually kind of picturing, so this is where I'm thinking about the major locations. I kind of like to think of this area as the market. So we'll put over here market, and then I'm thinking maybe like neighborhoods will be over here. So the neighborhoods, and then just typical like housing. Okay, so yeah, so markets are over here, housing, and then we can do maybe on this side there could be trying to think, maybe like a special location of some sort. So we can roll on this table here. So we got 18 pilgrimage. Interesting. Okay, maybe it could be for this area. Pilgrimage. Okay, and then maybe for this area, let's see, 18. Oh, we got that again. Let's try a different one. Oh, a plaza. Okay, cool. Okay, yep. And then we can even pick which buildings can be a tavern or something. So I like to number it. So we'll have 1. So number 1 will be a tavern. Okay. And then maybe next to the housing, maybe this building, this could be an inn. And then, ooh, maybe like the edge over here. Ooh, maybe here. I like this. This could be a cemetery. Cemetery. And then there has to be maybe some sort of, I don't know. I'm thinking this building could be like a town hall. And what else? Maybe we can have this building, maybe like an alchemy shop. Okay, well, yeah, we can just leave it like that. But yeah, so this is how I would draw a town map. So I use this tool, which is really handy if you want to get ideas sparking, because sometimes it's hard to just like think on the spot here. But yeah, so maybe this particular town could be located maybe in this area or something. So when you are starting your adventure and you're traveling along and you make it to this area, then you can pull out this map. So this map would be reflecting this town, for example. So yeah, that is how you make a town map and a regional map. And I hope that this was at least a good guide for how to doodle these kinds of maps. And again, it's not up to scale or anything. I personally don't really think about that much, but if you are curious, I do like to think of a hex grid as like probably like 5 miles or so. So maybe this would be, it looks like about like 5 miles ish from this village, and this village to this village, it's like 5 miles away. So yeah, and I don't know, if you're coming from here, this could be like 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 30 miles from the big mountain or so. So yeah, so usually if you do want to get a little more on the technical and scale side of things, so I like to think of this as 5 miles. Yeah. So again, I hope this video was at least helpful for you to get started with your doodles. And you should always simplify your icons, especially if you just don't want to put too much like effort into it. I think just simplifying your icons will also be really, really helpful for you if you're making a regional map. I prefer to draw regional maps more than like a town map, but again, I hope that this video was helpful. Well, that is it for today's video. I really enjoyed making these maps with you. I hope you were able to get artsy and try drawing a map. And I will post a link if you guys are interested in this tool. This is available at DriveThruRPG online. So this is a really handy tool if you want a sandbox generator. So that is it for today's video. Thank you so much, adventurers. Until next time.